Welcome to Psychic Girls Next Door, and we're here today with just a few updates, what we've been up to, and we're going to sprinkle maybe some ghost paranormal stories. Well, we've had quite a lot going on in the last few weeks, I want to say.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, I'm excited to talk about it today. We did a road trip. We saw the Stanley Hotel. There were ghosts, and lots of growth in our own personal lives as well. So I'm very excited to share like my personal growth journey since I turned 35 in July.
yay.
So I think I started therapy the day before my birthday. Nothing like a good birthday gift to yourself to get you therapy. And talk therapy, especially because I'm an external processor, as some of y'all know that about me. And I think it's been super helpful to have somebody just create that space for me with in a very non-judgmental way. And they can kind of redirect the conversation to make me pick out the golden nuggets of truth and healing and things that resonate and things that don't I'm talking out loud. But yeah, we moved you from San Francisco to Colorado last weekend. And
Yes, and it was quite the move, I want to
yeah,
say. So those that are not kind of like familiar with what happened, so I did move from California to Colorado a year ago. And but I still left some of my furniture in storage in California because, I was like, well, if I decide to go back, my stuff is still there. But now I'm at a point where I want to officially move to Colorado. And of course, I didn't want to pay for storage anymore because it didn't make any sense. So I went back to San Francisco to empty the storage unit and just kind of like try to sell my furniture. Basically me just like giving away stuff too, because I was like, I just don't want any of this anymore. Mostly because I don't need a furniture here in Colorado, because I'm moving to a new space, like probably mid-September. So that's why, I went to get rid of all of that and then spent a few days in San Francisco. And then the last, 2 days of the week, we then moved all my stuff from California to Colorado. So we went on a road adventure. And so it was quite the experience, I want to say. I mean, for me, in many ways, it was kind of like closing a cycle, like a growth cycle. I feel like I've already kind of closed that, but I think it was just that official stamp,
yeah,
okay, this is it. Just kind of physically removing my stuff out of the storage. It was also I think it also was very symbolic in many ways. And I don't know if I mentioned to you, like I had like stomachache every day I was in San Francisco.
no. Well, you thought you ate weird, but
Yeah. I
maybe
wasn't, yeah, it was really strange. I think one, because I was eating stuff that I normally don't eat. Like
yeah,
I try to eat pretty conscious. Uh, and I was just kind of like, I'm on vacation. I'm just going to eat whatever. And I know that also caused my stomach ache, but I think it was also like a way of my body was just like purging
yeah,
things, like literally like purging. So it was kind of like both ways, like the energetics and the physical kind of like
yeah.
movement that happened. But it was, of course, it was great to also see friends, hang out and see people in person and just really like close that chapter. I also don't remember if I mentioned too, but I went back to the place that I used to live. And, there was a lot of weird memories. Some of them were not that pleasant.
Yeah.
But I lived in that place for so many years. And it was actually kind of nice that I did that. Like I was like, just kind of like looking at that physical space and just like, life goes on.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
move on. You
Yeah.
know, other people are probably have moved into the space where I used to live and they're building new memories. And so am I
Hmm.
in this new chapter. So it was just such like an interesting experience, just
Yeah.
like be in that space. And then, I mean, thank God we were able to fit all my stuff in the SUV and then just take off.
Yeah, no, it was like, I think it's so fascinating when, like, it's interesting you bring that up. Like, when you have like so many specific like memories associated with an individual place or like an environment. And then when you think about like somebody new moving in, they're going to create something completely different from that experience. And I think that type of transmutation is so healing for the physical space itself. Well, hopefully healing, hopefully it's a better like match vibrationally. But I think it's good that you didn't have any, now you don't have anything lingering in California. Like you have all your stuff with you, clean break. Like it sucks when you like feel like you are spliced into, or like, you were in Colorado the last year, but then also like your stuff was still here. So you had something anchoring you to San Francisco, and like, kind of a big task, right? Like, so you
Yeah.
thinking about that task for over a year. And so I bet that it feels good to like finally have it off your list. You don't have to think about it any longer. You can move
Yeah, it's kind
forward.
of like not
Yeah.
having that responsibility anymore.
Yeah.
And now I feel like whenever I want to go back, it would be with not, not having that responsibility. It would just be because I really, want to see my friends and just have a good time. So I don't have, that thing on my to-do list anymore. So yeah, so I think it was kind of in many ways, it was very representative of where I am now. You just like you move on. So you create the movement,
Yeah.
from one space to the next. And then I feel like where I am now, it's also like creating a new space where I can just like create a foundation and like a base for me to really like look at it and say like, well, what do I want to create? Right. And that's,
Yeah.
I'm excited. I mean, it's a little nerve wracking in a way, but it is exciting because there's so many possibilities.
Yeah. What are you excited most about?
I think it's just the fact that I get to do things from a much better, mindset, from a healthier. I feel like a lot healthier physically, energetically, uh, you know, and it's kind of like it's so weird to even like thinking like even like a year ago, which is not that long ago, just being like a completely like different space
Mhm.
where you're just going through like this dark tunnel that you feel like you're never gonna get through it, right? Because when you're in it, it's just so hard to see the light or become the light because
Yeah.
you're just so like drowning just a lot of challenging stuff. But when you are out of it and you're on the other side and you look at it, you're like, wow, like I can't believe that I went through all of that. And just like being in a better state, a better environment, and a safer environment too. That's exciting by itself.
Yeah.
Just being in a new space, meeting new people, new opportunities, and still like I'm close to family and close to the mountains here too.
Nice.
Although it was really nice to be back in California and just be close to the ocean because I love the ocean.
Nothing like an ocean breeze.
Yes,
Yes.
just like the ocean vibes, but it's nice to be close to the mountains. Just being close to nature, I feel like it feels really good. But as we went on a road trip and went driving from California to Colorado too, we got to see a lot of nature and maybe not a lot of nature at the same time because there are a lot of parts of it that were kind of just like driving through the desert.
Yeah. Lots,
But yeah,
lots of
you,
lots of desert.
yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
I like the desert every once in a while. Like I love Joshua Tree. I like Palm Springs, which doesn't really feel like the desert. I am not a Vegas gal. I don't like gambling. My parents lived north of Vegas, so we were able to stay with them as like a pit stop. The second day was definitely a better drive, I would say. So I like worked in the car the first half of the day. Both did, you got to make it work. Make work for you. That's what I always.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the view was a lot more scenic going, as you travel through Utah into Colorado. It's a lot prettier, but it was nice to also, and you also got to see some mountain towns. And then also we got to explore, a little bit more of Colorado too. So if you've never been to Colorado, hopefully we'll give you some tips here of places to go and, fun stuff to see. And we got to, check out, a lot of fun places.
Yeah, Vail was like definitely a highlight on day 2. I feel like in a past life, I was a very wealthy ski town woman, and
I hope so.
I've all become like that's my retirement plan. Just to be a rich, widow. Is it widow is a woman? Yeah. I mean, I guess like I'm already killing off my future husband. No, I think it would be so fun to like live just, we're going to Vail for the weekend in a mountain house. It was very much that vibe, but also like people are regular, like people are pretty casual, but parking was $45. So fair warning if you
yes.
for like 2 hours. Yeah.
If you ever visit, the mountains in Colorado, they're very famous for the ski, of course, ski towns. And a lot of them are quite bougie. So, and Vail included. So, and there's a lot of celebrities that, that they're staying those, in the ski town. So, and it's a very touristy area. So it does get expensive, but oh my, that was very expensive parking. It's like, I was like, oh my God.
$45. Okay. I mean, I'm used to San Francisco prices. So I'm like,
exactly.
Like 20, 30, depending on like for the full day. This was like 2 hours of parking. So I don't even know what a full day would cost. But no, Vail was very cute. Totally worth it on a pit stop if you're like driving through the mountains. And then the next day we went to Estes Park, Colorado. Super fun. We rode the gondola. And when you had originally suggested us riding the gondola, I thought you meant like a boat gondola.
Oh, the one like desert they have like in Venice.
And I was like, yeah,
it's like great. There must be a lake or something in there.
Right.
But that's
cool. I mean, there is a lake, so I'm like, there were boats. I'm like, yeah, like totally right. But
no, that's kind of how they
like the gondola,
the air tram. That's kind of what. Well, that's how they call it here. They call it the gondola too.
Yeah.
Don't know why, but it's just kind of what it is. And I just like, when you say it, you don't really like think about it, right?
Yeah, no, I was like, like
you're like, wow, this is like such like an international experience.
Yeah.
So if you're not familiar with this location, so Estes Park, it's also a mountain town, and it's located right at the door of Rocky Mountain National Park, which is also very famous. There's a beautiful lakes and a lot of wild animals. It's it's a must see attraction if you come and spend time in Colorado. So the town of Estes Park is famous because there's a lot of tourists there, right? Like especially now in the summer, it's like the peak of tourist attractions, and there's a lot of things to do. There's restaurants, there's summer concerts. The day that we were there, they were having like a wine festival, I think. So there's a lot to do, very family friendly too. But one of the things that we wanted to visit was the Stanley Hotel.
Yes.
Yeah, so which is also located in the downtown area of Estes Park. And the Stanley Hotel is very famous. One, because it's a beautiful property and it's been around for over 100 years, but because that's where the movie The Shining, that's where it was inspired from. And so there's a lot of history around that, a lot of conspiracies, a lot of ghost stories that, people share online. If you Google it, there's like all sorts of videos and people talking about their own experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really cool. It was a beautiful hotel. It looks like a wedding cake type of like hotel topper, like a wedding cake topper, like just like perfectly white and like, cookie cutter, very old. You can, so like whenever I walk into, I'm sure I've talked about this before on the podcast, but my energetic abilities are like, I can feel the past history of like the room that we're in, or like I can feel any lingering energy, whether they're like it's just a bunch of like eclectic, if there's a bunch of old vintage items, like every time we go into a vintage store, my friend Brittany and I go with her all the time, I can't be in stores that long because like who that have a lot of vintage stuff because it feels like a full house. Like it feels like I'm walking into a really crowded room. And I definitely felt like that was a little bit of the case. The hotel was busy with like living people, but I also feel like it was busy with like ghosts themselves and like doing their thing. Like there were a couple that I could feel and like I don't really see them that often, but like I was definitely the more you looked at a certain space, I could just kind of start to see some like things kind of forming. And I was like, yeah, I'm not opening up that channel. Like,
Yeah.
no, thank you.
Yeah, well, anytime you walk into a place where there's a lot of history, there's
Yeah.
going to be a lot of energy around, and therefore there's going to be spirits too. I mean, we were just kind of going in just to explore the premises. There are guided tours at the hotel, but you have to pay for it. I kind of like was like eavesdropping in someone because there were some tours happening while we were there, and they're like talking about history, blah, 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 and some very interesting stuff. And they also have nighttime tours too, which is very catered to this whole like ghost experience, which I find it kind of cool too.
Yeah.
People that are into that stuff and want the paranormal experience. But yeah, you can, I think anyone that has, the intuitive ability is a little bit more heightened when you go into that space. And you end up like picking up, impressions from it. I mean, I don't see stuff because I am not a medium. And that's not what I was there for because I did not want any communication with anyone on the spirit, from the spirit world. But there were some places that I mean, and we couldn't go into the rooms, by the way,
Yeah.
because those were just for guests. But from what I heard, it's like some of the hotel rooms, they're like, I don't know, like there's like specific room numbers I can't remember from the top of my head, where Stephen King, the author for The Shining, that he stayed in, where he experienced the paranormal activities, and therefore that's why he wrote the movie. But there are specific rooms that, that people say that they see the ghost of the owners and so on and so forth, and they see a lot of activities. We didn't get to experience any of that, but I'm sure if you go online, you can find videos of people probably like exploring that type of stuff. That's not what we are, but
Yeah.
we are entertained by that stuff too.
Yeah.
One thing that I will say is that I felt the presence of children's spirit, not so much of adults, people that actually like lived or stayed at a hotel, but I felt like very like young spirits, like children. Just like it felt to me like they kind of like to just like play, like run through the hallways and just maybe play pranks on people type of vibe. That's more what I kind of like my perception was. I mean, just granted, that day we went, it was pretty crowded because there were so many people like
Yeah.
walking on that hotel. So it's just like there's just like a lot of chaotic energy. But from what I could gather, that's more what I felt, just like children's energy, spirit in that
Yeah.
location.
Yeah, no, at one point, so I was like, I was keeping some of my channels open, and I could just definitely feel like some areas were like hot spots versus others. But we were walking out, and like sometimes this happens to me. Well, this probably happens more often than I realize, but someone will come up in my space, and it'll feel like they're like pushing against water or like that type of texture, and like they'll be like all up in my space, and I'll be like, I gotta get you out of my space.
Yeah, you definitely don't want anyone in your energetic space.
Out of my aura, and so, or I'll hear like it's like coming in, kind of like your hearing goes out, but it's not, you can still hear, it's like feels like going underwater or like in like a specific type of like dome. And that's when I'll feel like this weird energetic pressure. And I always know like, oh, that's a ghost coming into my space and trying to tell me something. And then I'll get like some type of message or something, or like a thought that pops in my mind. The thought did not happen because I was like, I wanted to like move out of my space. Like that's where I was focused. But then I also like heard this like high pitched in my right ear, like it's a frequency, like an angelic frequency. But I don't know if it was an angel or just like a ghost that had passed away, or a person that had passed away, but it was definitely like this strong like energy. And that happens to me a lot too. Just it depends. But usually if I'm going to haunted places, I know something like that is going to happen to me. I just embrace it. Like it doesn't bother me. The one that like is distracting is when they physically come all up in my space. And I'm like, no, I'm not a medium. This body is not available for you to like jump in and like, channel through. But I can definitely tell if ghosts are in the room. But, switching from ghosts, like, let's switch from ghosts to growth. Like, how has this experience moved you through your growth journey so far? And not the ghost journey, but like from
That would be kind of fun.
yeah, for just
Just get in touch with my ghost self.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, don't ghost yourself. That should be the title of this podcast.
Mhm.
But yeah, how are you? Do you feel like excited about the next couple months? Like what are you looking forward to most when like you move into your new place?
I am very excited, but I'm gonna also be honest. There is part of me that feels kind of nervous too.
Mhm.
I think it's mostly due to just the change in itself. Moving is never fun.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
gonna, and I can say it from like experience. Um, I feel mostly excited, and it was nice just to kind of really close a chapter than to start a new one in many
yeah,
ways. So it's more about like looking at it from a perspective that this is just going to bring new opportunities, new connections. Me also just kind of really having time for myself,
yeah,
like really like honing in myself, because this past year has been a period of very deep healing. And this is exactly what I needed. And healing again, like it happens in many layers. So I just went to a much deeper layer that I didn't even know existed.
hmm
So it was like really like going to the depths of the ocean and kind of like really like having to explore that. And then as you come out of it, or you just kind of like really like process and integrating all of that, I guess like also how am I going to apply this in my own business and in the services that I offer, and how
hmm
can I help people with everything that I learn? So I think that's probably gonna be my journey, is just like processing and integrating like
yeah.
all of that.
Nice.
Yeah, I didn't want to sound like too deep into that, but that's just
Yeah.
kind of like how things have been kind of like transpiring, in the last few months. But more to come on that. I'm sure we'll talk about it on the podcast. But what about for you?
For me, lately, I'll give you like the TLDR. So I joined therapy the day before my 35th birthday in July. And then it's talk therapy. So I do talk therapy Wednesdays. I also signed up for EMDR therapy, which has been a really enlightening experience. And so I do that on Tuesdays. And so I've had 2 sessions. And what's nice with EMDR, it's like you figure out the root issue. So like my root issue that I'm focusing on for the next short-term period, or who knows, forever term period, whatever resonates, is my deep belief from early childhood that I need to accommodate other people or put the needs of others over my own. And it's manifested in so many ways throughout my life. And now I'm like, oh my God, this is no longer serving me. What can we do to pull out the root and process? So what they do with EMDR is that you follow a laser light, you do tapping. So they do like as your kind of binaural beats, and then you have the ability to do these hand buzzers. So in the next session, we're going to do we're going to figure out what works for me. I think the tapping would be cool because then I can always use it and like apply it for myself if I need to. So I do that Tuesdays, and then I'll start processing next week. So like the first 2 sessions, we're figuring out what do I really need to, what's the root issue here that kind of cascades, it'll cascade down, and like everything associated with that will also be reprogrammed in my mind. So you're rewiring your brain through the experience of EMDR therapy of how you feel and think and remember that situation or that core memory, that core trauma. And I got inspired by Miley Cyrus to do it. Like I saw a video on Instagram and she like healed her like the stage fright because she'd always get stage fright for like years. And then she realized that it wasn't even her own information, it was her mom's information. And I was like, oh my God, I needed to see this video. I need to figure out what is EMDR therapy. It's an investment for sure. But what's nice is that you're not supposed to be doing it for a long time. It's supposed to be like, maybe you can start processing in like 3 to 5 sessions. Maybe you start processing in 8 sessions and like you're fully processed out. But it's supposed to be a short term, like, whole like gardening activity, right? Energetic, spiritual, like emotional gardening, where you're like, let's pull out the root. And that's my favorite type of healing to do. Like, let's cut the shit out that no longer serves you immediately and let's churn and burn. So like, light that on fire, rewrite, recrop everything if we're going with the gardening theme. And it's been helpful to talk in talk therapy on Wednesdays the next day about what I've discovered in that prior session. I also joined 2 gyms, 2 therapists, 2 gyms. So I have my rock climbing gym with my friend Brittany that I do. We've been doing just weightlifting and doing like the squat rack. And I had a healing with Isla in late July, like right after my birthday. So my whole year and intention for myself is transformation. And then I got a butterfly tattoo yesterday. If you
Oh, cool. Wow.
yeah, 3 butterflies. So because I am being holistically transformative in this next year, and like really setting the intention of like what in my life is holding me back. What are my limiting beliefs? What are the narratives and stories that I'm telling about myself that are keeping me feeling really small? And like, I feel like I'm a pretty brave person most of the time, but like there's certain areas that I've been avoiding in my life that I'm like, okay, let's pay attention to that. Let's like revisit this. Like I am not consistent. So like I went into therapy being like, I want to be more consistent. I want to be more creative and consistent with my creative projects. And then I'm like, oh, why am I not being consistent? Oh, I'm abandoning those needs for serving other people because of obligations to other people. And then I'm like, and then that time gets in the way of me having time for myself. So it's all connected to this like core belief that I have to put the needs of other people over my own. So
it all starts with one core belief, and then it just it transpires everywhere, in your behavior and patterns and how things just kind of unfolds in your life. But I think it's just amazing that just taking the first step just to recognize, there's an issue here, and I can take these steps to heal myself and really get to where I want, where I would like to, where I just don't want to be in the same place where I was like even like a year ago.
Yeah.
And that is very courageous.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It's been fun.
Yeah.
I see this as really fun to do. And like, I know like growth in like facing your shit and looking at yourself in the mirror and be like, what are the worst parts of myself? I find that really fun. I know that's so weird, but being able to like transmute that energy, that's the fun part. That's the beautiful experience. That's like, oh my God, this has been holding me back for like 30 years. I don't need this anymore. And when you feel like you just like shed that snake skin off of you, and then you're like, oh, this is a new version of myself that has always been there, but it's been blocked by other like things, like barriers, whether it was a narrative I'm telling myself, or it's other people's information, where it's other people's energy, that kind of interference, like from tapping into that like divine essence of who I am and who I like am becoming, and like just remembering, or it's like remembering who you are.
Because that's what healing is about. I mean, healing is the most beautiful gift that you can give yourself.
Yeah.
As a human being.
Yeah.
And it's not about like, you don't have to like transform your whole life, because that thought in itself, it scares a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you have to like turn everything upside down, which eventually it will, because however,
It'll
however we were operating, it's not been working properly, or it's not very aligned. But, it's one of those things that once you get on it, I feel like the hardest part for people, I think, is just to like continue on the path, because that's where a lot of people, they feel, discouraged, right?
Yeah.
Because, oh, this is really hard. Well, maybe they don't have a support system, or people that, encourage and motivate them, or it could be financially, it could be for so many different reasons. But but the hardest, I feel, it's always like consistently working on yourself, and that can be also exhausting too.
Oh yeah, it's not a fun. I love it. It's so fun. It's fun for me because that's an interest of mine. Like, I want to become the best version of myself as soon as possible. I know like that sense of urgency isn't really realistic for a lot of people, but for me, I'm like, why wait? The time is now. Your life is now. Yeah.
Absolutely. The time is always now to make a change. And again, like, nothing changes if you don't change it, right? Nothing changes, nothing changes. That's kind of like how the saying goes. So and then the one way that I always tell people is like, well, if you think like a year from now, do you want to be in the same place? Like, think of like, we're recording this in August, right? Like August of 2026.
Yeah.
Do you want to be in the same places? Like, what are the seeds that you're planting today?
Right.
What are the changes that you're making today? They're going to reflect a year from now. Because as psychics, you get asked a lot like, oh, what do you see in my future? I'm like, well, what are you doing today?
Right. Yeah.
What is it? Yeah. What is it that your present self is doing that is going to contribute to your future self? And that's the best way to like, to kind of like create your own future. Create your own reality in many ways, but that's amazing. I feel like we're in this really transformative journeys in different ways, but like incredibly deep and exciting in many ways.
We're in our healing girl era. That's exactly where we're at. So you heard it here first, folks. We're in our healing girl era.
Yes, and hopefully you continue to join us, and let us know too if you ever had a story with, going to a haunted place, or any ghost spirit stories. We also love to hear about those too. And how is your healing journey going? We are always available on social media. You can find us everywhere, audio, and now we are on video too. So check us out on YouTube, and then we'll see you on our next episode.
See you next time. Thanks for listening.